Week 11 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few running backs I have as sleeper options this week. The first back, Zamir White of the Las Vegas Raiders. So Whitey's definitely been a bust this season. Many people thought he'd be the starter and keep the job and have a decent season, going 5th, 6th round in most fantasy drafts. But obviously that hasn't happened with Alexander Madison, the running back over there for this Vegas Raider team. But this week, for some reason, I think White's going to go out there and get a decent amount of touches in this game at the Dolphins. After coming off a bye week, this Raider team trying to reset things a little bit. Right now, out there in 74% of fantasy leagues, and he's still the short yardage and goal line back. So the last few games, week 7 at the Rams, 3 carries, 13 yards a catch, 14 yards. Week 8 versus the Chiefs, 2 carries, -1 yards. In week 9 at the Bengals, he did have 6 carries, 10 yards, and a touchdown. So we know White was banged up a little bit in week 5, week 6. He didn't play in those games. And now coming off a bye week healthy, and maybe the game plan will be different for the Raiders. He's a possible sleeper option this week. The next running back, Samaje Perine, the Kansas City Chiefs. Perine out there in 96% of fantasy leagues. And Perine, we know he's the passing down back and sporadically in there for this Chiefs team. But the last few weeks, he's at least gotten 5 points or more. I know that's not saying much, obviously, but like I said, he's the passing downs and change of pace back at times. But this game's a potential high-scoring game between the Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. So the last few games for Perine, week 8 at the Raiders, 2 catches, 30 yards. Week 9 versus the Bucks, 4 catches, 25 yards, a touchdown, a carry, 10 yards. In week 10 versus Denver, 2 catches, 37 yards. So Samaje Perine, sometimes he has those surprising games where he goes out there and he puts up a surprising 10, 15 fantasy points. The Bills, they do give up the second most fantasy points to running backs on the season. And I think Samaje Perine could go out there and surprise fantasy owners this week. If you need him in a pinch in deep leagues, in the third and final running back I have as a sleeper is Gus Edwards of the Los Angeles Chargers. Out there in 77% of fantasy leagues is Gus Edwards. He returned from injury last week, and he had 5.5 yards per carry on 10 carries versus the Tennessee Titans. So this week could be a ball game where it's a grinded out type of game, or even a high-scoring type of game with the Cincinnati Bengals coming to town on Sunday Night Football. So this offense did definitely kicked it into gear over the last few weeks. Justin Herbert's been playing good football, and Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, it's a good combination. So Gus Edwards, like if you're in desperation mode and you're hoping for someone just to plop into the end zone and get 40, 50 total yards, that definitely is a possibility with the role Gus Edwards plays for this Charger team. So that's a few running backs I have as sleepers for week 11 of the fantasy football season.